Tonight, a Sydney man, his wife and brother are killed in an airstrike in southern Lebanon. A young girl is among 7 people killed in Queensland's wild weather. The renowned Australian chef Bill Granger dies at the age of 54. Challenging conditions hit the Sydney to Hobart fleet, forcing several retirements. And Pat Cummins gets 3 wickets as Pakistan struggles at the MCG. Good evening, Jeremy Fernandez with ABC News. An Australian man along with his wife and brother have been killed by an airstrike in southern Lebanon. The 27-year-old electrician and construction worker was there to help bring his wife home to Sydney. He's the first Australian to have been killed in Lebanon in the current conflict.
This video shows Ibrahim Bezzi and his wife Shuruq Hamoud in southern Lebanon just days ago. After Shuruq recently acquired an Australian visa, her 27-year-old husband flew over to bring her home.
He returned to Lebanon just to get his wife back to Sydney to start a new life.
But the couple didn't make it. Shuruq, Ibrahim, and his brother Ali were all killed in an airstrike overnight. Local media in Lebanon is reporting an Israeli missile hit the area. If confirmed, it would make the Bazzi brothers the first Australians to be killed by Israeli forces since the start of the wider conflict in October. A spokesman for the family has described Ibrahim as a humble man, adding they're all devastated.
They're all very angry. They're all very angry to lose. Imagine that you lose one of your best friend or best neighbor.
Since October 7th, the Lebanese militia Hezbollah has been launching strikes on northern Israel in solidarity with Hamas. Cross-border exchanges of fire have become a daily occurrence, threatening to open up another front of the war.
We're in a multi-arena war. We are being attacked from 7 different fronts. Anyone who acts against us is a potential target. There is no immunity for anyone.
We are here sitting now in a peaceful place in Sydney, but our fellows in Lebanon are sitting under the attack of the Israelis on a daily basis.
Ibrahim and Ali's parents are still in Lebanon. Family here say they're worried about their safety. Nabil Nashar, ABC News, Sydney.
Israel is insisting it will see through its mission to dismantle Hamas no matter how long it takes. Tensions are spreading across the region, with the Israeli military reporting attacks from not only Lebanon but also Syria, Iraq and Yemen. The Palestinian president is warning that the occupied West Bank could implode at any moment.
Far from the front line of Gaza, Israeli troops destroy an explosive laboratory on the outskirts of the West Bank, claiming to have found dozens of weapons inside. Nearby refugee camps were also raided by Israeli forces. Summer said he was sleeping when the IDF stormed the camp and evicted families from their homes.
I don't know why they did that. I don't belong to any organisation, and I'm not affiliated with the Palestinian Authorities.
6 people were killed, according to local health authorities, bringing the total number of those killed in the West Bank since October 7 to more than 300. Israel has been conducting near-nightly raids across the occupied territory in what it describes as counter-terrorism operations. There are fears of this war not only expanding but extending too, with the Israeli military's chief of staff declaring the war will continue for many more months as its forces broaden operations in central and southern Gaza. In Gaza's southernmost town of Rafah, an Israeli airstrike leaves behind a wasteland. Al-Mawasi, an area declared as a safe zone by Israel, suffered the majority of the 250 deaths reported across the strip today. In response, Israel's military said it will operate wherever it identifies activity threatening the security of Israel. Collecting, let alone identifying the dead is near impossible in Gaza. Israel returned bodies it says it recovered from northern Gaza to Palestinian officials.
The smell is unbearable. We can't open it here because of the spread of disease in the neighbourhood.
Away from residential areas, a mass burial is being prepared.
These martyrs are all unknown. We've been taking pictures in order to identify them later on.
80 Palestinians finally laid to rest. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Queensland has been hit by deadly storms over the past 48 hours, with 7 deaths, including that of a child. Among those killed are 3 men who died after their boat capsized off Brisbane's Moreton Bay. A 9-year-old girl was also killed when she was swept away at a flooded storm drain.
A second deadly night of ferocious storms lashed the southeast.
There it goes. There it goes.
Leaving destruction in its wake.
Seemed to be coming from all different directions at one point in time, and it was fairly significant.
The deadly deluge claiming the lives of 7 people, among them a 9-year-old girl in Rochdale.
Absolute tragedy. I'm not aware of the circumstances, but these storms, you've just got to be so careful.
Meanwhile, an annual Boxing Day fishing trip turned deadly off Moreton Bay. 2 men aged 48 and 69 were found dead in the water last night, and a third, a 59-year-old man, this morning.
Sadly, we lost 3. We could have lost 11. They're unpredictable, and unfortunately people underestimate how quickly these storms can come on. But these natural events, we can't control them.
The rescue operation has been dangerous and lengthy, with more than 20 crews trying to find those on board and recover the vessel before more extreme weather hits the southeast. But it's likely the boat will remain at sea tonight because of structural issues. Further north, more heartache, with 2 women in their 40s dying after going missing in a storm drain on Boxing Day.
It is just a tragic set of circumstances, but it's particularly felt hard at this time of year when people would prefer to be spending time with their loved ones and family.
A 59-year-old woman was killed on Christmas night after being struck by a tree on the Gold Coast. The region was battered by storms 2 days in a row, cutting off communities. Thousands are still without power.
We've now activated the disaster hardship funding arrangements for the Gold Coast, so people on the Gold Coast affected by the disaster can apply.
The latest addition to Queensland's billion-dollar recovery bill from Mother Nature. Meg Bolton, ABC News, Brisbane.
It's been a deadly few days on the state's waterways. 4 people have died in separate drownings in New South Wales since Christmas Day. A 5th person is still missing in what authorities are calling the deadliest time of the year.
A search party scoured the surf on the New South Wales south coast for a young man swept out to sea trying to save his brothers.
They were down there fishing and the younger brothers went into the surf, and this man has gone in to assist his brothers to get them from the surf. He has retrieved one of his brothers from the surf, and I believe the other brother got out by himself and this man was swept out.
19-year-old Sydney man Hatab Abu Haish was on holiday at Congo Beach with his family when he disappeared into the water on Boxing Day. The search continued from first light this morning.
The family are obviously traumatised at the moment.
It's already been a tragic final week of the year. A surfer died after being pulled from the water near Umina Beach on Christmas Day. On the same day, another man in his 80s died near Copacabana Beach. And on Boxing Day, a 35-year-old man went missing at Penrith Beach, sparking a full-scale search. 4 hours later, his body was pulled from the water.
Out of respect for the family and those impacted, of course, the new beach at Penrith is closed today.
Witnesses say the man was on a paddleboard before disappearing beneath the surface. Paddleboards are only permitted to be used at the newly opened Penrith Beach outside of the red and yellow flags. According to Surf Lifesavers, the vast majority of drownings happen in unpatrolled areas.
It's really important that they remember to watch their children constantly around water, that they only swim at a lifeguarded area, that if they're boating or recreating, even on a watercraft like a stand-up paddleboard, that they're wearing a life jacket.
Late this afternoon, a 33-year-old man died and 3 others were pulled from the water at Anna Bay, north of Newcastle. With 4 days left of what lifesavers have described as the most dangerous week of the year, authorities are pleading with swimmers not to take any risks. Leah Harris, ABC News, Sydney.
It's been another wet day for the state. A storm cell brought an early afternoon downpour to Greater Sydney and the Illawarra region. There was hail and lightning in Wollongong and surrounding areas. The State Emergency Services received more than 200 calls for help. That takes the total since Christmas Eve to more than 1,400. The storms were weaker than they've been in previous days, but it's expected the wild weather will ramp up again over the weekend. The Australian chef Bill Granger has died at the age of 54 in a London hospital with his family by his side. Granger was born in Melbourne but launched his remarkable career here in Sydney before taking it to the world. He was a self-taught cook who became one of the most successful food writers and restaurateurs Australia has ever produced, enjoying a special claim to fame. Ben Knight reports.
Many chefs dream of creating a phenomenon. Few achieve it. But Bill Granger did.
It's hard to believe such a simple dish, avocado on toast, has become such a cultural signifier of a whole generation.
He took simple and made it really good.
It was in his first cafe in Darlinghurst when he was a 22-year-old art school dropout. It wasn't allowed to open in the evenings, so he stuck to breakfast and brunch.
There's an old expression, the person that gets up early owns the day.
I love that.
Bill Granger seized the day. His first cookbook is credited with taking Australian cafe culture to the world.
Many of the guys who are doing good food in cafes now really have, Bill to thank for trailblazing that.
He and his wife Natalie built an empire while building a family. 5 TV series, 12 cookbooks, and restaurants all over the world, including in the city where it all began.
The legacy, like all the cookbooks, the restaurant chain, so sad that he's passed away.
Really shocking, so young.
His friend Jamie Oliver said, "I loved Bill Granger so much. He had an extraordinary ease and style in cooking that could only come from Australia." Nigella Lawson said she was heartbroken. There are no right words when what's happened is so wrong.
That sort of sunny disposition, that smile and that level of happiness that he always managed to bring into a room really sort of said a lot about what Bill was all about.
And what he brought to his food.
It's fresh and sunny. Australian cafe classics, and that's me on a plate.
Bill Granger was 54.
More cocaine has washed up on the New South Wales coast. Police say a fisherman found a barrel containing 39 bricks of the drug at Barrenjoey Head off Sydney's northern beaches yesterday. Hours later, a member of the public discovered another 39 at Newcastle Ocean Baths. On Christmas Eve, 7 sealed packages of cocaine were found at 6 beaches between Newcastle and Sydney. All up, about 124 kilograms of the powder have now washed ashore. Walgett in the state's far north can be a blisteringly hot place. This summer, the oasis of the local pool has been off limits. That was until today. A community-led campaign has secured repairs to the facility, but they're only short-term, meaning more money and work will be needed to keep it open.
Earlier this month, Walgett endured multiple days above 40 degrees without a pool or a place to safely cool off.
It's been terrible keeping people down and inside and not be able to get out and have any fun.
6 months ago, the town's only pool was decommissioned due to leaks and a failing filtration system. But now a temporary fix means it's once again open, just in time for the new year.
To be the first one to dive in this summer and swim laps in the 50-metre pool was just fantastic.
I feel really great. It's really fun, especially with the slides.
And the kids are enjoying it, being able to get out of the house and have a bit of fun and get wet at the same time and stay cool.
The community rallied to get the pool back up and running, and after several setbacks, it's finally happened.
A few of us spoke at the local council meeting to make some noise, and thankfully from that meeting they rescinded the motion to decommission the pool.
Dan and Monique Allman moved to Walgett from Sydney's northern beaches a year ago and say it's been a big adjustment.
We've been waiting a long time, I guess, for the pool to be up and running again, and to get the sort of message saying it was open today was fantastic because it's been hot out here.
It might only be a temporary solution, but locals are thrilled to have somewhere safe to swim as a reprieve from this outback heat.
Gives us a little bit of time to do that planning that's required around, what we will replace it with, how we will replace it, and then, of course, that finding funding.
But for now, they're just happy to be able to make a splash. Catherine James, ABC News, Walgett.
Ukraine says it's destroyed one of Russia's biggest amphibious warships in a strike that's being viewed as a major setback for the Russian Navy. The landing ship was hit while it was in a Crimean port in a massive explosion that lit up the night sky.
In the dead of the night, Ukraine's Air Force strikes. This video captures the moment a Russian naval ship is hit by cruise missiles, sending a massive fireball into the air.
A huge job has been done. A big assault carrier was destroyed.
Hundreds of metres from the site of the blast, residents clean up shrapnel and broken glass. Moscow says the large landing ship called the Novichokazk was damaged but not destroyed in the dramatic explosion. It's part of Russia's prized Black Sea fleet and is used to transport tanks and troops to shore. Its absence will likely hinder Moscow's ability to resupply its forces in Ukraine and to gain further territory along the Black Sea coast. Ukraine's allies say this latest strike proves reports of a stalemate in the war are wrong. But Russia insists it's thwarted Kyiv's long-awaited counter-offensive.
The Russian army is constantly taking more favourable positions and expanding controlled territories in all directions.
In St. Petersburg, President Putin is putting on a show for Friends of the Kremlin. A collection of leaders from former Soviet member states have gathered for an informal summit, a festive finish to a year marked by conflict in the region. Michelle Rimmer, ABC News.
Australia is the hay fever capital of the world. Almost 1 in 5 Australians suffers from the allergy. Experts predict those numbers will soar in the coming years due to the impact of climate change as pollen seasons grow longer and more powerful.
Daily life is no stroll in the park for allergy and asthma sufferer Caitlin Ross.
My symptoms have gotten worse, especially in the last 5 or 6 years. It's been the most noticeable. Every year is a new unprecedented year.
But experts say allergy seasons are becoming more severe.
We're seeing flowering of certain types of plants becoming earlier in springtime. We're seeing that the pollen seasons are extending for longer.
Researchers say people with allergies will have to endure more frequent bushfires and thunderstorm asthma events due to climate change. And more carbon dioxide in the air means pollen is becoming more potent.
The amount of pollen produced per plant is also increased, particularly for grasses, at elevated levels of carbon dioxide.
80% of asthmatics also have hay fever. Research from the peak body shows a clear trend.
What we found was 91% of people with asthma are very concerned about the impacts of climate change. And what's more, 25% of people said they are already feeling the impacts on their health.
For Caitlin Ross, it's hard to imagine her allergies getting any worse.
To be told that I am already at that top end of the scale, to then have the prospect of it being worse than it already is, that's terrifying to me.
The number of Australians who experience hay fever is forecast to grow by 70% by 2050, meaning millions more people will have to manage allergies of their own. Stephen Schubert, ABC News.
Many rural communities have long struggled with a shortage of veterinarians. It's been the subject of a parliamentary inquiry in New South Wales, which has touched on the challenges of recruitment and retention. In the Riverina, 2 young women are bucking the trend, though, swapping city life to treat animals in the bush.
Mobile veterinarian Michelle Noga spends a lot of time behind the wheel.
I can head up to Condobolin, just 4 hours away, and that'll mean 1,000 kilometres.
Vets are in short supply, especially those with specialist skills like equine dentistry.
Actually met my now husband in my final year. So he's a farmer in Griffith and it was a no-brainer just to move.
While the lifestyle appeals to her, so does the professional development.
In the country, you get thrown in the deep end straight up. You learn skills that you don't learn in the city.
Sophia Johnson is another city-born vet who's embraced country living.
I don't miss that traffic, I don't miss the cost of living.
But a New South Wales parliamentary inquiry's heard it's hard to attract vets to work in the country. Many are chronically overworked. The state's peak farm body believes training more country kids as vets could help.
Opportunities for students that grow up on farms to be able to get into the veterinary course and having some sort of mechanism that gives them a weighting because of where they studied.
It's not just an issue of producing more vets, but we need to make our rural and regional areas more enticing.
Other ideas aimed at easing the regional vet shortage have been put forward. They include HECS relief for graduates who work in the country and incentives to encourage more city students to gain experience in the regions.
Give it a go. You know, what's the worst that can happen? You get that experience and you've got some stories to tell at the pub maybe.
Words of encouragement from someone who's made it work. Emily Doak, ABC News, Lagan.
Inspired bowling by captain Pat Cummins has given Australia the edge on day 2 of the second test against Pakistan at the MCG. Pakistan fought hard during the first 2 sessions before Cummins led by example with 3 wickets.
Pakistan came out with a spring in its step and made an early breakthrough.
Edged and taken.
Marnus Labuschagne brought up a patient half-century while Mitch Marsh was in a hurry.
He was waiting for it, didn't wait long, Mitchell Marsh, he knew it was coming.
The tourists didn't allow Australia to build momentum thanks to an improved effort in the field.
An absolute beauty here, Mohammad Rizwan.
Marsh's aggressive approach brought about his undoing as Pakistan targeted Australia's captain.
Oh, awkward. Very, very awkward.
But the wayward visitors conceded 52 sundries.
It's almost outrageous.
The home team went down swinging and made 318.
And that is a really good running catch out there.
The Pakistani openers were living dangerously.
It's a tough one.
And Australia's greatest off-spinner wouldn't be denied.
Yeah, got him! Nathan Lyon strikes!
The crowd paid tribute to the late MCG favourite Shane Warne, but captain Shan Masood wasn't showing Lyon the same respect.
Wow, that's good for the action.
Abdullah Shafiq also made an impression.
And that is a half-century for Abdullah Shafiq.
Travis Head conducted the fans in the outer. And Pat Cummins called the shots in the middle with a double strike.
Captain Pat! Got him! And it's an absolute beauty to remove Baba Azam, one of the best batters in the world.
Masood fell for 54 as Lyon had the last laugh.
He does come down, and it's led to his demise.
The final session fight back was bearing fruit.
Oh, it's a peach.
It was good at the end there to get a few big wickets and felt like we're well into their order now.
Pakistan ended the day 124 runs behind Australia with 4 wickets in hand. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
The Melbourne Stars have claimed their first win of the men's Big Bash season, chasing down the Sydney Sixers total to win by 4 wickets. The Sixers put on 8 for 154 at the SCG last night. Englishman James Vince top scored with 83. In reply, the Stars faltered early, but an unbeaten 47 by Hilton Cartwright saw them sneak home with 3 balls to spare. And the Perth Scorchers' unbeaten streak continues. They had a 13-run win over the Melbourne Renegades at Perth Stadium. The home side's total of 162 proved too much for the Renegades, who only managed 149 in reply, and they remain winless this season. The Supermaxis Andu Comanche and Law Connect are locked in a tactical arm wrestle off Tasmania's east coast as the Sydney to Hobart yacht race continues. Much of the fleet was battered by wild weather overnight, resulting in a raft of retirements. With more rough weather on the way, it's set to be a tough slog to the finish.
Blue skies and smooth sailing 1 minute, wet, wild and windy the next as the weather turned on the Sydney-Hobart fleet overnight.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of everything. In fact, the wildest was like literally 180-degree wind shifts. Been pretty wild.
Law Connect at the front of the pack in a one-on-one duel with fellow Maxi Comanche for line honours, both fighting the weather as well as each other.
We're playing cat and mouse all night long.
A tactical battle that's expected to continue right into the River Derwent.
I think it was 7 seconds was the closest finish in the past. Imagine if we got that again.
The 103-strong fleet was cut down to 94 as of this evening. Line honours contender Scallywag forced out of the race with a broken bowsprit, while the tiny two-hander Currawong also had to turn back after suffering damage. Rum Rebellion returned safely to Sydney too, but not without some overnight drama. Both crew members okay, despite a freak wind gust sending one overboard.
Bit bruised and sore, and they're back in Sydney and drinking rum.
Last night's light show was terrifying as it was awe-inspiring. And with a southerly change on its way, there's potentially more pain in store for the bulk of the fleet.
There's strong winds because there's a low coming through, so those are very strong winds. But on top of that, you have these electrical storms, and when they hit, they actually change the wind from the direction it's going.
A slow crawl to Hobart for those still standing.
Let's bring in Chris Rowbottom, who's at the finish line at Constitution Dock. Chris, when can we expect to see the first yacht cross the line?
Well, Jeremy, the official word out of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia is any time after sunrise tomorrow, Hobart time. That's expected at about 5:30 in the morning. So that window between 5:30 and 6:30 tomorrow, maybe as late as 7 a.m. is when we're expected to see the Line Honours champion crowned. We know it'll be one of Comanche or Law Connect. They're still engaged in this tactical arm wrestle off the east coast of Tasmania. They've been fighting the whole way since leaving Sydney on Boxing Day. Comanche's opened up a small lead, but that could change with some weather changes coming in the early hours of the morning. It's going to be a slower finish than last year. The race record is under no threat whatsoever, but on Line Honours it will be one of Comanche or Law Connect. We're expecting at around sunrise tomorrow, 5:30 local time here in Hobart.
Chris Rowbottom reporting from Hobart. The Perth Wildcats have held off the fast-finishing Taipans to record victory in Cairns, 105 points to 102. The three-time NBL MVP Bryce Cotton was again unstoppable for the visitors with 33 points. The American import Bobby Klimpman led the charge for Cairns with 24 points. The Wildcats held on to cement second spot on the ladder. Perth's Christian Doolittle was named Player of the Match. Let's take a look at the weather now. It's been another wet and woolly day for parts of the state. Sydney managed tops in the mid-20s, along with some light to moderate showers. The heaviest rainfall was in Camden, recording 25 millimetres. The continuing cloud cover gave us another relatively warm night near the coast, whereas areas west of the Divide were cooler than average. That cloud cover and the showers also kept daytime temperatures subdued in most districts. The latest satellite snapshot shows clouds swirling through the southeast and adjacent areas. A severe thunderstorm warning remains current for the south coast, snowies in ACT, along with parts of the Illawarra, southern tableland, southwest slopes and Riverina. There may be heavy rainfall leading to possible flash flooding. If you're near the New South Wales coast, expect more wet weather for the remainder of the week as a trough of low pressure extends down from the tropics. A cold front to the south will also trigger showers in the state's southeast. Around the major centres tomorrow, there will be showers in Hobart and possibly Melbourne and Adelaide. Brisbane, Canberra and Perth get a mostly sunny day. We can expect a dry day with mostly sunny skies in the northeast tomorrow. Daytime temperatures will span the high 20s to high 30s. We'll get some isolated showers and possible thunderstorms in the southeast tomorrow, though some areas, particularly the tablelands, will get a mostly sunny day or lengthy sunny periods. Those showers and thunderstorms extend to the far southwest tomorrow, but it should be dry and mostly sunny in the remainder of the state. On the coast, winds will turn northeasterly to southeasterly by tomorrow afternoon. A marine wind warning is current for the Eden coast. The likelihood of showers in Sydney decreases this evening, leading to a mostly sunny day tomorrow, with only a slight chance of showers in the afternoon and evening. Overnight lows will be mostly in the high teens. Daytime peaks will range from 27 on the coast to 31 in the city, 33 in Parramatta and Liverpool, and 35 in Penrith. The sun will rise at 5:43 a.m. For Sydney, the showers make a return on Friday, with light falls expected each day on the 7-day outlook, including New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Otherwise, partly cloudy to overcast, with daytime temperatures from the mid-20s to low 30s. And that is the very latest from the ABC News team. Thanks for your company. Have a good evening.